Is free will an illusion? I think I must have done talks on this many times in the past. Is free will an illusion? Yeah. I don't think that's a new title. So Ramesh Balsekar used to say something that I really liked. He would say, in every given moment, do exactly what you feel like doing, knowing that there's nobody doing anything. And he used to make a very big point of saying that it feels like you have free will. Otherwise, you'd feel like you were caged. So you feel like you've got free will, that I can move my hands, I can speak, but there is no free will. When you really understand how this is all working, there isn't somebody that exists separately from everything else with something named free will. And that's a fascinating notion, because our society is built on the premise of you have free will. You are a separate entity and you have free will. So it's really fascinating to explore. But before we explore the title, I'm going to do what I always do, which is do an introduction to what non-duality is to me. So there are so many teachers on the internet now teaching non-duality, and everybody has a different description and a different idea of what it is. So I'm just going to talk about my interpretation of it and what it's like here. But we can also break that down and see that there isn't a Lisa here with an idea of non-duality. So it's also quite contradictory, but I try to bring it down on the human level to make it more clear. Because you might go to all these different teachers and be like, they all speak differently. But there's also some form of sameness as well, but there is a lot of difference. So to me, non-duality isn't a state of being. It's not a way that you behave. And it's not for the person, it goes beyond the person. So there is many recognitions that happen along the way, and for sure the person is going to claim that. Like, they're going to be like, yeah, this is mine, I own this. This is, I've awakened. But in reality, there is nobody that awakens. So I'm going to predominantly stick to the consciousness teachings or ways of expressing things, while slipping into kind of non-self teaching as well. But this is where I feel comfortable sharing this. But please note that I don't believe in what I say or what other people teach, because non-duality is beyond words, and I can see the issues in words, that the positivity in them and the negativity in them. It's like everything, it always cuts, it's like scales, comes with scales. So, and this is what's so great about so many teachers talking about non-duality now, because there is this wide range in teaching, so the mind doesn't get stuck in places. So non-duality, the typical teachings of it would be that there is a consciousness prior to being born, and there is consciousness that goes on after death. And it's prior to the person, it exists independent of the person. And we can't ever really do a scientific experiment to work this out, because we only know our own perspectives, so that could always be dubious to rely on. We can't really step out of consciousness to look at it, because consciousness is what's experiencing everything. In our own experience, we can discover that consciousness is the main source of everything. So when all things change, when everything ages, every experience you go into, there's always consciousness, and there's never anything outside of consciousness. Even the idea of Timbuktu or the moon or an undersea world, that is always an idea appearing in this one consciousness. And so this consciousness is always here, it never leaves. So it was there when you were born, it was even there prior to birth, and it's been there in every instant of life. And the most amazing thing, when you look from the absolute perspective, is it's not been every moment in life, there has just been one moment, which is this never-changing, ever-present consciousness. Such a different way of thinking to the majority's way of thinking. Like, it could be seen as a bit of an insanity, but it's actually the most beautiful teaching there is. And I'm not claiming it as mine, saying I have the most beautiful teaching. I mean non-duality, like this message, which many people share. So this one consciousness is always here and always present. And what comes and goes in it is the world, other people, all of the objects, time, the appearance of time, space, and yourself. Who you think yourself to be comes and goes in this one space of consciousness. And this one space of consciousness also has a girlfriend or a wife called the I am. And the I am, to me, is prior to you as a person. It's like the sense of being. So consciousness by itself is like nothing. It's totally empty. It's nothing, not a thing. But the I am is like the love, like the heart of the consciousness. And actually they're together, they're not separate. You could say like the consciousness is like the portal to the emptiness, and the I am is like the portal to love, but this is only poetic ways of speaking. It's not really that. So the I am is the love side of consciousness. And what I mean by love is I don't mean the excited love that you get when you're falling in love, although there can be mini awakenings when you fall in love. And so there's like moments of that because there's a falling away of seeking in yourself. I'm talking about this love where you're totally content as you are. It's like no desire to go out and do anything. It's just completion. Total completion. And it goes with this emptiness, this empty looking. So there is this completion and this empty looking, and they belong together. So you could say it's like no thing and everything. If you want to match it up with the like more Neo-Advaita, it's no thing and everything. And they come together. And this is here in every experience. It never leaves. Never. It's here right now. There is this empty looking and this I am. And they're here. They don't need any effort to be here. They are here. So there's no effort needed to be here. They are here. Right here, right now. And everything's coming and going in that. These are the basis of experience. And the person has forgotten this. You could say, if you're really extreme about it, in a way the person could never know about this, but it's like too far down the line. If we keep it simple, it's like the person has forgotten that who we truly are is the beingness and the I am. So you could say it's forgotten its nature, who it truly is. And instead, the person believes that it is a form, that it is a character that is running inside the head with all these energetic expressions. So all these emotions, feelings, ideas. So the character is the name, the roles it plays in society, the job, the father, the sister, daughter, its suffering, difficulties, emotions, past grievances, experiences. All of it makes up this seeming person that lives inside the head and is narrating a story of you, including the narration like I am choosing. And you feel like this is who you are, and that consciousness and the I am belong to this story of you. So it's not just this empty looking and the I am, it is I am conscious as somebody. I am conscious as somebody who is good or who is bad or who is right or who is wrong. And to me, this inevitably leads to suffering, because there is an identification with a false self and with a mind that is meant to fix problems. And in that identification, it gets into trouble because it really believes in itself. And the person takes on this identity that my job in this life is to make myself happy as a person by purchasing objects and becoming something. So the goal of the person is to become something in time. And through that, you will achieve your happiness. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with becoming something in time, like doing things, but it's just that it's a misunderstanding that that's what's happening. Total misunderstanding. Your happiness, or your freedom, is always the I am and the empty looking. This is the contentment, this is the home. It's not excitement, it's not a behavior, it's not being angry. It's this underlying contentment. And you could say this energetic expansion, there is this element of emptiness and expandedness to it. It doesn't belong to anyone, like the experiencer doesn't belong to anyone or anything. Like there's nobody that's experiencing this. This is simply what is, and consciousness is all things and no things. So it's like this element of not being anything. And so if we now go to free will, the person believes it has free will. And that's the person that lives in the head that's narrating and telling the story of who you are. I have free will. But who is this I that has free will? Who is that? Who's sitting there now watching Lisa with free will? There is a narration happening of free will. So it's like, well, I'm sitting here. I chose to sit here. I have free will. Free will. And this becomes like an obsession, because the mind obsesses about what people have done to me or what I've done. So guilt and shame, and judgment, it obsesses with this idea, and lots of suffering arises from the idea that you have free will. Predominantly because we're sold these magical lives that we're meant to have through storytelling, through films. And so most people feel like a failure because it's such a small percentage that have these like magical lives. What they don't know is most people with these supposed magical lives really suffer with it. They're not actually happy, but from the outside, you know, looking like being a princess, like that's success, or being like a multi-millionaire, that's success. But there's all types of problems that come with everything in life. Like being rich, I speak with a lot of very rich people in one-to-one sessions. And it's really can be a lot of struggle having a lot of money. That's like the main idea, and then I don't have to work, and I'll be free of work. And there's always in the world of things, if you don't enjoy your work, then and you're really unhappy in your work, then that is an idea. If I get lots of money, then I don't have to work anymore. But a lot of people then that don't work then go into depression because they feel isolated and they don't know what to do with themselves. And so sometimes, I see people take off time from work and they go into a deep depression. So it's just not found in that way, where in that place, your freedom. But the mind, the ego, whatever you want to call it, the separate entity, is always telling you that your freedom is in life looking differently, being differently. And it's always avoiding the obviousness of what is. That right now, there is an empty looking and this sense of I am, and that is free. That is free. And this is so simple. If you want to put it in like really simple terms, it's like what this is about is becoming present. But to become present, you have to really see that it's not somebody that becomes present. Your true nature is present. It's just been veiled by that illusory somebody. And it's this unwinding and energetic movement back to intimacy with what is, with what's happening. Like really being here, to be put in really crass words, like being here right now. Be here right now. I'm not sure who says that. Is it Ram Dass that says that? But that's put really crassly because it's actually a lot more complicated than that. It's not like you become present, because who is this illusory you that becomes present? It's like the moving out of the way of you, and then there is presence. And it's like vibrating in everything, and it's totally free. It's like waking back up to what's actually happening rather than dreaming your way through life. Narrating your way through life, like living in stories. Like when you're walking along, it's like feeling your steps along the floor and the air against your face and the breeze and the sounds of other people. So I'm not against practicing and doing practices for the person, but I don't see it as this person is going to practice and arrive at something, because who are you? So I see it as these practices are done to settle down the person, like a settling down of who you believe yourself to be, and what you believe yourself to be. And I don't see it as somebody's free will to do the practices. It's something that happens or it doesn't. Like, so I might say a practice and it's even taken up by the other person or not. And that's life. So in this moment, who is it that practices? So there might be a thought that comes up and says, oh, I'm going to put my attention in the I am. But is that thought really you? Or is it another appearance appearing in this? So we could call it the character. So everything that's appearing in the character is the character. But is that character really you? It's you in the sense that that's what's being looked through, but that's not the actual experiencer. It's like a character in the dream. It's not actually experiencing. We think the character is experiencing, the character is understanding, but it's not an alive thing. It's like a play happening. There isn't a consistent character that's here continuously. There is the appearance of a character arising in every moment that's always changing. And what happens in society is most of us have continuous characters, so they kind of look the same, but there isn't actually a character that's always there and continuous. Like there'll be different elements of it that come up in different moments, dependent on what's needed. And it's not the disappearing of the character, it's the disappearing of that energy that believes that's you and is kind of like glued to it, like that is me, and it's like here, like you, me, like inside the brain talking about itself and really creating this energy like there is somebody, a person, a character looking out of these eyes when there is consciousness experiencing. And the consciousness is kind of everywhere. It's seemingly looking from this perspective, but it's also simultaneously everywhere and nowhere.